Hello and welcome. Today's video is about how to negotiate the best price for your house. We'll talk about that and other related topics right after this. Hello and welcome. So when I first started, I was with a different agency, remaining unnameless, that one of their core tenets was win-win. And I thought, that's such a nice philosophy, mindset. But the truth is that, yes, in the end, win-win is a good situation to strive for, but it's not realistic. Because the truth is, you've got a seller and you've got a buyer. And they want opposite things in some respects, and mostly it's about the sale of the price of the house. So what you've got to do is, the seller wants the most amount and the buyer wants the least amount. So what you've got to do is get them to meet in the middle. And so that's where you would get the win-win, is where they get the deal that works out for both of them. But if I'm representing the seller, am I really looking out for the buyer's best interest or the agent's on that other side's best interest? Is that my goal? And is their goal to get my client the best deal for them? No. So, in doing a lot of reading, a lot of agents will do a lot of things. There's nothing wrong with open houses, but open houses are 1% of all sales. And there's other things that agents will do that works on building their business, but doesn't necessarily make them better agents for you. And I don't agree with that. I mean, it's just me. If somebody asks me to do an open house, I will, but I'm trying to become the best agent that I possibly can for my clients. And so how do I do that? I read a lot. I read a lot of books. Every year I read at least 10 books, sometimes more like 20. Audible.com is my friend. And so instead of listening to classic rock, songs I've heard, a million times, probably realistically a million times, Stairway to Heaven. I mean, how many times have I heard that? So instead of listening to that, I listen to not books on tape, but audible.com. And so I thought I'd share a couple of the books that I've read. But anyway, I read books on all kinds of things, things that make me a better person, but a lot of it is about making me a better real estate agent. So getting to yes, it's about negotiating agreement without giving in. And other books, these are just a couple of them. I've got some other books that I never got the hard copy, but I read the book through audible.com. My favorite book was Never Split the Difference. Negotiate as if your life depended on it. The guy used to work for hostage situation in the CIA, which, that's a life hanging on it. So, but he does a lot of seminars for businessmen and agents and all kinds of people that negotiate for a living. Realistically, in our lives, we negotiate all the time. If you've got kids, you are negotiating with your child about their bedtime, about maybe about their diet. I'll let you have this cookie or this ice cream if you do that. That's a negotiation. So, but in real estate, there's a lot of negotiation that goes on. But the most important for you, the client, is negotiating the sales price, because we're not talking usually a couple $100. We're usually talking thousands of dollars. So there's a lot riding on it. Most people's life, a real estate sale is the number one largest purchase that they'll make in their life. I mean, think about what you pay for a car. How many cars would it take you to buy to equal the sale of one house? So it's very, very important, and I take it that seriously because it is huge. So anyway, in negotiating, what I liked about this book was, you're basically supposed to always be looking out for your client and getting the best deal. So I'll give a couple of real life examples of negotiation where, I think the other agent let their client down. And where I strive to use my brain, not that they didn't, but I was constantly thinking about my client. And one was a sale of a condo. The other agent was a very nice agent, a hardworking agent, had their own brokerage. And I've found that a lot of times if somebody has left early on and started their own brokerage, they're doing it because they want to either more control or they want to make more money or both. But they're so busy building their business that they don't really have time to build themselves and make themselves better agents. And because they're constantly doing that, are they really, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but if they're busy building their business and trying to keep their business afloat, having built a business, that's what you're really trying to do. Versus if you're working for a RE/MAX, I still have to worry about gaining sales and taking care of my family, but at the same time, I have time that I can use to learn how to work better and smarter for my clients. So in this one example, he was busy, she was busy, and sent their buyer over. And I always like to be present when the buyer goes there or an inspector goes there. I want to know what's going on because I work for my client and I think it's important that I'm there representing my client. The other thing is almost always I get some useful information. Inspections, I'm probably one of the few who knows a lot about what things mean in an inspection report because I've got a lot of experience in contracting and improvements, and so I know when an inspector says this or that, I know what they're talking about. So I like to be there and hear the negatives that an inspection is going to bring out. So then I know I can pick his brain, and I'm a better situation to negotiate when the buyer comes and says, "Hey, the inspection report says this, 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 this." And I say, yes, but I talked to the inspector and they said that this is really the only important thing that they saw and it's going to cost X amount of dollars to repair. And all of a sudden the negotiation goes from being thousands of dollars in the buyer's mind where I've just negotiated it down to maybe one thing that really was important, but just that one thing. And if the buyer really wants it, they'll negotiate down to that one thing. So anyway, in this particular situation, the buyer's there, I'm there, that's it. And the buyer walks in, very, very nice buyer. First thing out of his mouth is, "We love this place. We were looking for this exact floor plan and for months, and we finally found it." Well, having read a lot, my first thought was, gotcha. And the reason I say that, and I don't mean to be, I don't know how to put it, but let me just say my job is to get the best price for my client. So this buyer who was unprepared by their agent should have said, "Hey, do not make any comments about whether you like it or do not like it. Be indifferent." That's how I advise my buyers. Don't give away the fact that you absolutely adore this house. Just look at things, register things, and we'll talk about it afterwards. But do not reveal your cards. So this buyer has just now told me they've been looking for months. This is the floor plan they wanted. This is the exact same thing they wanted. That put me in a much higher negotiating position than I was before I met them. So that's why I said gotcha. Because the truth is, now they're in a worse negotiating spot, and I'm in a better negotiating spot. And quite honestly, as the agent for my seller, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is trying to figure out how I can get the best negotiation spot for my client. So in the end, in that condo, not only did we raise the price on the sales price because we had multiple offers and we knew that client really wanted that condo, so we actually raised the sales price. And then on the inspection, there was like 5 things that the buyer brought up, and because I'd been there at the inspection, I brought it down to one thing. It was a box of fuses, which were from the 60s, and so upgrading it to a box of breakers for $1,200 was something that, you know, we were going to have to do no matter what. So we negotiated that down on the sales price, but everything else was up, 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 and I swept everything else off the table because I talked to the inspector. So I was able to say, you're redoing the whole thing, so the window broken over here or the scratch door, those are all important because your renovation is going to take care of that. And so I got a really good deal from my client. They were happy, and that's one example. Another example was another condo, very experienced agent, very, very experienced agent in this one neighborhood. She walked in and she said, we've looked at several other units and this has the best patio on there. And I said, I asked, is the other units, were they the same exact size? And very innocent question, but I'm poking, I'm prodding, and she says, yeah, they're the exact same unit, but this one had a bigger patio, and my client really wanted a bigger patio. She's just revealed to me, just given me a better negotiation spot. Doesn't realize she's done that, and this is an experienced agent, and I don't say anything, I just file it in my cabinet, but when it comes to negotiating the sales price and she tries to negotiate me down, I've already looked up the other units in that neighborhood, they were the same size, and I said, well, this one is this price and this one is this price, and we're right there with them, and you've already said that your client wanted a bigger patio, which we have, so I think the sales price is exactly where it should be. And this was months ago before the market got crazy like it is now, but she couldn't negotiate me down because out of her own words, she'd already said that her client was preferring this one. So that's what I mean about negotiating the best price for the client. It's having your recorder on, listening to what people are saying, hoping that they'll say something that they probably shouldn't, their client didn't advise them, or the agent, aren't really thinking about what they're saying, and really, you're supposed to have a poker face when you walk in there. You just kind of look around and, yep. And if anything, you might say, hey, you know, that ceiling, or anything. So you start basically prepping them that you're going to be negotiating the price. But unfortunately, in this market right now, things are selling so hotly that there's not as much negotiation for the buyer, which is a great thing for the seller. But these markets never last. So at some point, it'll swing back at least to the even, or maybe even where the buyers have a stronger point. So anyway, that's a little bit about how I negotiate the best price, what I do. I'm constantly trying to learn. Those books I showed you, those are just some of the books. I don't have hard copies for every Audible book, but negotiation is basically listening to what the other person is saying and using that information for your client's best interest. And also, if you can use that to help their client, which helps your client in that win-win situation, that's good too, because you can't just be all win, and because then the other person will walk away. So you have to be understanding and realize that you're getting the best price for your client, but you don't want to completely blow the other person off like you don't care, because then they'll walk, and then you got to start all over again, and you've got an interested buyer in your hand, and if they're qualified, why go through that, especially if they're cash? So anyway, I hope this has been helpful and useful information. This is information that's coming out of my brain to help you, and it's how I get the best price for my client. That's how I sell them for the top dollar, and it's how I sell them quickly, because I'm constantly listening to what other people are saying and processing that information and using it in the negotiation so that we can get a deal quickly and for the best price possible. So I hope you found this helpful and informational, and until next time, be safe and be healthy.